Family circumstances have changed our leadership needs, she explained during the termination meeting. We're taking Skyline Hotels in a more contemporary direction that requires fresh perspectives. My name is Daniel Reynolds, 38 years old, Chief Operations Officer at Skyline Hotel Group in Chicago for the past 9 years. Or at least I was until that Tuesday morning when my sister Vanessa called me into the executive boardroom with Lawrence from legal already seated beside her, documents neatly arranged before him. I'd sensed trouble brewing for months. Ever since our father, Richard Reynolds, announced his retirement and named Vanessa as his successor despite her limited operational experience in the hotel industry. While I had spent 15 years working my way up from night manager to regional director to COO, Vanessa had pursued marketing and public relations in New York, only joining the family business 3 years ago when the succession plan became clear. Father always had a soft spot for her vision of turning our reliable mid-tier hotel chain into a lifestyle brand experience. Your management style is too traditional for where we're heading, Vanessa continued, sliding the termination agreement across the polished mahogany table with her signature gold pen. The irony wasn't lost on me, that pen was my gift to her when she graduated from business school. We need innovators who understand today's travelers, not just efficient operators. I remained expressionless, my face a practiced mask of professionalism despite the churning in my stomach. 9 years as COO, 15 total with the company. I'd overseen the expansion from 12 properties to 47 across the country. Our occupancy rates consistently outperformed industry averages by 17%. Customer satisfaction scores had reached record highs under my operational systems. But apparently, none of that mattered now. I understand, I said evenly, taking the pen from her hand. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the company. I signed where Lawrence indicated, stood up, collected my personal items from my office while security watched, and walked out through the marble-floored lobby I had redesigned 3 years earlier. What Vanessa didn't know was that I had been quietly developing alternative plans for months. As I drove home along Lakeshore Drive, watching the Chicago skyline recede in my rearview mirror, my phone buzzed with a text from Maria, our longtime head of housekeeping operations. This place just made the biggest mistake in its 30-year history. I learned the hotel business from the ground up, starting at our original downtown Chicago property when I was just 19. My father built Skyline Hotels on a simple premise: clean, comfortable, consistent accommodations at reasonable prices. Nothing flashy, just solid service that business travelers and families could count on. I respected that vision and carried it forward as I climbed through the ranks. When I became regional director at 29, our Midwest properties were struggling with outdated facilities and inconsistent service. I implemented standardized training protocols and a gradual renovation schedule that modernized our properties without disrupting revenue streams. Within 2 years, our regional profits had increased by 38%. That success earned me the COO position. As Chief Operations Officer, I refined our operational systems further, introducing technology that streamlined check-in procedures, developing data-driven staffing models that reduced costs while improving service, and creating our renowned Skyline Standards, the 27-point checklist that ensured consistency across all properties. The business thrived. Travel publications praised our reliability. Corporate clients signed exclusive contracts. The Skyline name became synonymous with dependable quality in the mid-tier hotel market. Then Father announced his retirement. At 68, Richard Reynolds decided it was time to hand over leadership of the company he'd built from scratch. To everyone's surprise, including mine, he named Vanessa as his successor. The hotel business is changing, he explained during a tense family dinner. Vanessa understands modern marketing, social media presence, brand development. That's the future. I disagreed but kept my thoughts private. Our success wasn't built on Instagram aesthetics or viral marketing campaigns, it was built on operational excellence, attention to detail, and delivering on promises made to guests. But Father had made his decision, and I respected his right to choose who would lead his company forward. For 6 months, I tried to work with Vanessa as she transitioned into the president role. I compiled detailed operational reports, invited her to management meetings, offered to mentor her on the day-to-day realities of running a hotel chain. She attended at first, but soon began sending her assistant with notes about reimagining the guest experience and lifestyle-centered accommodations. Then came the changes. Vanessa hired consultants from her New York network, sleek professionals with fashionable glasses and no hotel experience who presented PowerPoint slides about disrupting the hospitality paradigm. She approved expensive lobby renovations focused on aesthetics rather than functionality. She hired a celebrity chef to redesign our breakfast offerings, replacing the reliable buffet with Instagram-worthy creations that looked better than they tasted and doubled our food costs. I raised concerns in executive meetings, presenting data about guest complaints and operational inefficiencies. Vanessa dismissed them as resistance to innovation. When our quarterly financials showed a 12% decline in profitability, she blamed transitional growing pains and pushed forward with her plans for a complete brand overhaul. 3 weeks before my termination, I submitted a comprehensive operational analysis showing concerning trends across all properties, declining repeat bookings, increased staff turnover, and rising customer complaints about basic service issues. Vanessa canceled our meeting to review the findings, sending a curt email stating she was focused on forward-looking strategies, not operational minutiae. That night, I called Greg Harrington, my former college roommate and current CEO of Cornerstone Hospitality Group, one of our competitors in the Midwest market. "How's life under the new regime?" he asked after we exchanged pleasantries. I hesitated, then answered honestly. "Challenging." Greg went quiet for a moment. "You know, we've been looking to expand our operational leadership team." "Just saying." The severance package was generous enough, 6 months' salary and benefits, standard for an executive at my level. I signed without protest and drove home to my lakefront condo in silence. The place felt different that afternoon, emptier somehow, but also filled with possibility. I poured myself a scotch and sat on my balcony overlooking Lake Michigan, watching sailboats drift across the water as the sun began its descent. On my coffee table lay the operational plans I'd developed over the past year, strategies for sustainable growth, staff retention initiatives, and a technology integration proposal that would have revolutionized our guest experience while actually reducing costs. Vanessa had dismissed them all as too conservative or not innovative enough. But they weren't flashy slideshows created by consultants. They were practical solutions based on 15 years of frontline hotel experience and data analysis. Rain began tapping against my windows as night fell. I remained on the balcony, thinking about what came next. I had options, my reputation in the industry was strong, my network extensive. I could easily find another executive position. But something deeper gnawed at me, not just being fired, but watching the company my father built, the one I'd helped grow, potentially heading toward disaster under my sister's inexperienced leadership. My phone rang at 8:30 p.m. Jennifer Caldwell, Chief Strategy Officer at Cornerstone Hospitality. "Greg mentioned you might be available," she said without preamble. "We're expanding into the urban markets and need someone who understands operations at scale. Interested in talking?" I glanced at my operational plans spread across the table. "I might have some ideas." "Great. Send over your thoughts. If they align with our direction, we should meet." After we disconnected, I spent 4 hours organizing my concepts into a cohesive presentation, focusing on the operational efficiencies that had made Skyline successful before Vanessa's changes, while adding innovations that actually enhanced guest experience without sacrificing functionality. At midnight, I emailed the presentation to Jennifer with a brief note explaining my operational philosophy. Then I poured another scotch and finally got some sleep, better than I had in months. The next morning, my phone chimed with an email from Jennifer. My office. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Bring salary expectations. I showered, dressed in my best suit, charcoal gray with subtle blue pinstripes, not the trendy slim cut Vanessa had suggested I try, and drove to Cornerstone's headquarters in downtown Chicago. The receptionist led me directly to Jennifer's office, a practical space with industry awards displayed alongside family photos and operational charts, not the minimalist art gallery Vanessa had transformed her office into. Jennifer gestured to her conference table where she'd printed my presentation slides and annotated them with notes. These systems solve exactly what we've been struggling with during our expansion, she said simply. Particularly your approach to standardizing operations while allowing for local market adaptation. She tapped a specific page detailing my staffing efficiency model. This alone could save us millions while improving service delivery. How soon can you start? She asked after we discussed the role in detail. I'm available immediately, I replied. She nodded firmly. Good. We want to move quickly on these implementations. For the first time since Vanessa had been named father's successor, I felt genuine excitement about my professional future. 2 weeks into my new role as Executive Vice President of Operations at Cornerstone, I received a text from Carlos, Skyline's longtime head of maintenance whom I'd hired personally 7 years earlier. Can we talk? He wrote. Not official. We arranged to meet at a small coffee shop in Lincoln Park, far from both companies' headquarters. It's bad, Daniel, Carlos said quietly after we'd found a private corner table. The new systems aren't working. Those fancy lobby renovations. The materials aren't holding up to daily use. Those Instagram breakfast stations. Lines are backing up because they take 3 times longer to serve guests than the old buffet. And the new housekeeping protocols are impossible to maintain with current staffing levels. I listened without comment, though part of me felt a complicated mix of vindication and concern. I still cared about Skyline, about the employees like Carlos who have been loyal for years, about my father's legacy. Vanessa's telling the board that these are implementation problems caused by your outdated systems, Carlos continued, staring into his coffee. She's saying you intentionally left things in disarray to sabotage her transition. That made me sit up straight. That's completely false. Every system was functioning at peak efficiency when I left. I spent 3 months documenting everything specifically to ensure a smooth transition. I know, Carlos sighed. We all know. But she's convincing. Last week she brought in an entire new management team from some boutique hotel group in Miami. They have no experience with properties our size. Against my better judgment, I emailed my father that evening. He had moved to Arizona after retirement but remained chairman of the board. Dad, I've heard concerning things about operational issues at Skyline. I'm happy to provide guidance if needed, no strings attached. His response came the next morning, Vanessa is handling the transition period. All new directions face resistance. Give her time to implement her vision. It was clear he was fully backing his chosen successor. 3 days later, Skyline issued a press release announcing a brand revolution. They were repositioning from reliable mid-tier accommodations to lifestyle-focused hospitality experiences, with revamped properties, celebrity partnerships, and curated guest journeys. The stock dropped 7% by market close. That same evening, I presented my operational integration plan to Cornerstone's executive team. The response was overwhelmingly positive. "This is exactly what we've been missing," Greg said as the meeting concluded. "A systematic approach to growth that doesn't sacrifice what makes us successful in the first place." Implementation would begin immediately, starting with their Chicago properties. For the next month, I worked 18-hour days, personally overseeing the operational changes at Cornerstone's flagship downtown hotel. I trained managers, refined procedures, and worked alongside housekeeping staff to understand their challenges firsthand. Unlike Vanessa's consultants, I believed you couldn't improve hotel operations without understanding every department's daily realities. The results came quickly. Within 3 weeks, Cornerstone's Chicago property saw a 22% improvement in service delivery times, a 15% increase in positive reviews, and staff turnover dropped significantly. Jennifer fast-tracked implementation across all their Midwest properties. 6 weeks after my termination from Skyline, I received an unexpected call from Diane Bennett, one of our largest corporate clients who booked over 5,000 room nights annually for business travelers. "Daniel," she began without greeting, "what the hell is happening at Skyline? My travelers are sending complaints daily. Rooms aren't ready on time, billing is a mess, and apparently, the reliable breakfast buffet has been replaced with something called artisanal breakfast experiences that take 40 minutes to serve." I chose my words carefully. Skyline is undergoing a rebranding effort under new leadership. I'm no longer with the company, so I can't speak to specific operational changes. "Well, that explains a lot," Diane said. "Where are you now? We need to talk about moving our corporate contract." By the end of the week, Cornerstone had secured a meeting with Diane's procurement team. The following month brought more concerning news from Skyline. Industry blogs reported significant service inconsistencies across properties. Social media filled with customer complaints about long check-in lines, maintenance issues, and staffing problems. The lifestyle rebranding was proceeding, but operational foundations were crumbling beneath the stylish new facade. Then came the text from Maria, "Emergency board meeting called for next week. Q2 financials are disastrous." I felt no pleasure in this news, only concern for the company and the thousands of employees whose livelihoods depended on its success. 3 days later, my father called. His voice sounded older, more tired than I remembered. "The board is concerned about recent performance," he said without preamble. "Occupancy rates are down 23% compared to last year. Corporate contracts are being cancelled." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, genuinely meaning it. "What's being done to address the issues?" "Vanessa has a plan to accelerate the rebranding," he said, though I detected uncertainty in his voice. "The board is giving her until the end of the quarter to show improvement." I remained silent, waiting. "Daniel," he finally continued, his voice softer, "was I wrong? Did I make a mistake choosing Vanessa?" The question hung between us, the first acknowledgement that perhaps his decision had been flawed. I could have said yes, could have detailed all the warnings I'd provided, the operational insights that had been dismissed. Instead, I said simply, "Every leader faces challenges, Dad. The question is whether they're willing to recognize and address them." The conversation ended shortly after, with nothing resolved but a door slightly opened. I returned to my work at Cornerstone, focusing on implementing my operational systems across their expanding portfolio. Within 2 months, we had standardized procedures across all 27 properties, resulting in a 32% improvement in efficiency metrics and a significant increase in repeat bookings. Cornerstone's success was catching industry attention. Hotel Business Magazine requested an interview about our operational transformation. The resulting article highlighted my approach to balancing innovation with operational excellence, modernizing the guest experience without sacrificing reliability. I didn't mention Skyline or Vanessa, focusing instead on positive changes at Cornerstone. Nevertheless, the contrast was obvious to industry insiders. The morning after the article was published, I received an email from Lawrence, Skyline's legal counsel. The board has requested a confidential meeting with you next week. Please advise your availability. I forwarded it to Greg and Jennifer, who immediately consulted Cornerstone's legal team. They can't prevent you from using your industry knowledge, our counsel advised. But tread carefully. Family business disputes get messy. I agreed to meet the following Tuesday at a neutral location, a private conference room at the Chicago Athletic Association Hotel. I arrived 15 minutes early, prepared with notes but unsure what to expect. To my surprise, only my father was waiting, looking older than he had just months ago when he'd announced his retirement. Skyline is in trouble, he said once we were settled with coffee. Serious trouble. Occupancy rates have fallen to 58% across the chain. Staff turnover is approaching 70% annually. We've lost 8 major corporate contracts. I nodded but said nothing. Vanessa's vision. He hesitated. It looks good in marketing materials, but the execution has been problematic. The board is considering a change in leadership. Now I understood why he wanted to meet. And you want my opinion on who should replace her? Not exactly, he replied, meeting my eyes directly for the first time. The board wants you to come back. As president. The request stunned me into momentary silence. After everything that had happened, the dismissal, the accusations, the wasted operational recommendations, they wanted me to return and fix what Vanessa had broken. What does Vanessa say about this? I finally asked. She doesn't know yet, my father admitted. I wanted to speak with you first, see if you'd even consider it. I thought about Cornerstone, the respect I'd earned there, the systems I was implementing, the success we were already seeing. Then I thought about Skyline, my father's legacy, the thousands of employees I'd worked alongside for 15 years, the company I'd helped build from regional chain to national presence. I'd need complete operational control, I said. No interference. And a board seat. My father nodded. Of course. And Vanessa? He sighed deeply. The board suggests offering her the Chief Marketing Officer position. Her ideas have merit in the right context, just not at the expense of operational fundamentals. She won't accept that, I said, knowing my sister's pride. Probably not, he acknowledged. But it's the best we can offer. I told him I needed time to consider, to speak with Cornerstone's leadership. As I expected, Greg and Jennifer were disappointed but understanding. We couldn't offer what Skyline means to you personally, Greg said when I explained the situation. Family businesses are different. But if it doesn't work out, you'll be my first call, I promised. The board meeting where I was reinstated as president and Vanessa was offered the CMO position went exactly as expected. She refused the demotion, accusing the board of sabotaging her vision, and stormed out. My father looked pained but resolute. The vote was unanimous in my favor. My first day back at Skyline headquarters felt surreal. The lobby had been transformed into a sleek, minimalist space that looked impressive but had practical issues, nowhere for lines to form during busy check-in times, insufficient seating for guests waiting for transportation, style over function at every turn. Maria greeted me with a warm hug. Thank God, she whispered. Carlos and the maintenance team had prepared a detailed report of issues requiring immediate attention across all properties. The finance department provided alarming projections if current trends continued. The challenges were even greater than I'd anticipated. "Where do we start?" asked James, the CFO who had survived Vanessa's executive purge but looked shell-shocked from the experience. "With the basics," I replied. "Clean rooms. Efficient check-in. Reliable service. We rebuild from the foundation up." I spent the first week traveling to our worst-performing properties, meeting with staff at all levels, listening to their frustrations and ideas. Unlike Vanessa's consultants, I went to housekeeping meetings, shadowed maintenance workers, and stood beside front desk staff during peak hours. I needed to understand exactly what had broken before I could fix it. The picture that emerged was consistent. Vanessa's rebranding had focused on cosmetic changes while neglecting operational infrastructure. New procedures had been implemented without proper training. Staffing models were inadequate for the more complex service offerings. The core systems that had made Skyline successful had been dismantled without viable replacements. By the end of the second week, I had developed a comprehensive recovery plan. We would retain some of Vanessa's aesthetic improvements where they made sense but restore operational excellence as our primary focus. I presented the plan to the board with clear metrics and timelines. Unlike my sister's glossy presentations full of marketing buzzwords, mine focused on specific actions, expected outcomes, and financial projections. The implementation was grueling. I worked 18-hour days, personally visiting properties, training managers, and rebuilding systems. We restored the standardized housekeeping protocols that had previously ensured consistent quality. We enhanced rather than replaced the breakfast buffet, adding some of the more popular items from Vanessa's menu but serving them efficiently. We developed new technology integrations that actually improved guest experience while reducing staff workload. 3 weeks into the transformation, I received an unexpected email from Vanessa. "Can we meet?" Neutral territory. We arranged to meet at a small cafe in Wicker Park, far from Skyline's corporate circle. She looked different, less polished, more human somehow. "I've been offered the marketing director position at Visionary Hotels in California," she said after ordering coffee. Before I accept, I wanted to talk. I waited, giving her space to continue. "I was wrong," she finally said, the words clearly difficult for her. Not about the need for innovation, Skyline did need refreshing, but about how to implement it. I thought operations were just details that would work themselves out once the vision was clear. "Operations are everything in hotels," I replied quietly. "The vision means nothing if a guest can't get clean towels when they need them." She nodded. "I see that now." I was trying to transform Skyline into something it wasn't, instead of enhancing what made it successful. She paused, stirring her coffee. "I'm sorry, Daniel. For how I handled your termination. For not listening to your concerns. For accusing you of sabotage when things fell apart." The apology surprised me. Vanessa rarely admitted mistakes. "I appreciate that," I said simply. "Will you fix it?" she asked, looking up. "Can you save Dad's company?" "I'm already working on it," I replied. Early indicators are positive. Occupancy rates increased 7% last week. Staff turnover has stabilized. She nodded again. "Good. That's good." After a moment, she added, "I should have listened to you from the beginning. We could have worked together, my marketing vision, your operational expertise." "Maybe," I acknowledged. "But sometimes we need to learn things the hard way." As she prepared to leave for California, Vanessa sent me her complete marketing research, consumer trend analyses, competitor positioning studies, target demographic profiles. "There's value here," her note read. "Just needs proper operational foundation to succeed." She was right. Once we had restored operational excellence across all properties, I began selectively implementing some of her innovations, particularly those focused on digital guest experiences and local cultural integration. The difference was implementation, methodical, well-trained, properly staffed, and systematically evaluated. 6 months after my return, Skyline's occupancy rates exceeded pre-crisis levels. Corporate clients began returning, attracted by our renewed reliability combined with thoughtful innovations. Staff turnover decreased to historic lows as employees appreciated the clear systems and supportive management. The share price had recovered its losses and begun climbing steadily. The industry took notice. Hospitality Today ran a feature on Skyline's remarkable turnaround, highlighting our approach to operational innovation, improving the guest experience through systematic changes rather than superficial rebranding. I made sure the article mentioned some of Vanessa's original concepts that we'd successfully implemented once the operational foundation was secure. 1 year after the leadership change, I invited my father and Vanessa, home briefly from California, to dinner at Skyline's flagship Chicago property. We dined in the redesigned restaurant, one of Vanessa's initiatives that had actually succeeded after we properly trained the staff and optimized the service model. To lessons learned, I proposed as a toast. My father raised his glass. "And to family," he added. Vanessa hesitated, then joined the toast. "And to knowing your strengths," she added quietly. Later that night, after they'd left, I walked through the lobby of the hotel where I'd started my career 19 years earlier. The space reflected our new approach, modern and appealing like Vanessa had envisioned, but functionally excellent as I had insisted. Guests moved efficiently through check-in, comfortable seating areas accommodated travelers, and staff operated with confident precision. Sometimes I still think about those chaotic months under Vanessa's leadership and my abrupt dismissal. Not with bitterness anymore, but with understanding. We had both been partially right. The company did need innovation to move forward, but not at the expense of operational excellence. The lesson wasn't that one approach was correct and the other wrong, it was that true success required both vision and execution, working in harmony. Vanessa's transformational ideas, built upon my operational foundation, eventually created something stronger than either of us could have developed alone. The crisis forced us both to recognize what we had failed to see before, that our different perspectives could complement rather than conflict with each other. In the hotel business, as in family, sustainable success isn't built on flashy renovations or rigid traditions alone. It's created through understanding fundamental needs while continuously evolving to meet changing expectations. It's about honoring the past while building toward the future. And sometimes, it takes losing something valuable to truly understand its worth.